Leaders in Action Looking Ahead. I'm Robin Trimingham of the Olderhood Group, and my guests today are Olderhood CEO Bill Story and David Vaughn, Senior Director of Vee Technologies and a Fellow of the American College of Healthcare Trustees. Today we're chatting about a new category of videos that we're going to be bringing to everybody. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Robin. Bill, nice to see you.
It's great to chat with you today, David. Tell us a little bit about some of the new healthcare categories and people that we're going to be able to bring to this series.
Late last year, I believe I had a conversation with Bill, who I've known for a long time on Bermuda. And it came up that there were new initiatives that were of interest, especially in medicine and in healthcare technology. And I thought, well, why don't I see if I can help? So I thought about this, and I realized that I have an entire cadre of people who are at the leading edge of many of these, if you want to call it the art of medicine, if you want to call it the science of medicine, if you want to call it healthcare economics. All three of those, I have a robust number of thought leaders and recognized global experts. And I came back to you and to Bill and said, would you have any interest in having a program that's focused just on that area? And the answer was yes. So the last couple of weeks, I started to put something together, and I'm very pleased with the response I have, and be delighted to go through a list.
Now, I know that you have been able to line up some pretty big names for us in healthcare. Tell us a little bit about a couple of these people.
If I go in order and I look at the art of medicine and the science of medicine, I have several people who straddle both of those areas. Mm-hmm. The economics of healthcare comes in later, but it's a much broader area. So when you think about the art and science of medicine, one of the people who jumps right to the front of the line is Dr. David Levien. And Dr. Levien is someone who I've known for probably 35 years. He's a renowned surgeon. He's been the mentor to more than 200 or 300 surgeons during the course of his career. And now he is the president of the American College of Healthcare Trustees. And when I was invited to join that organization, I was completely stunned by the number of high-profile and extremely bright and knowledgeable people that were part of that organization. So Dave Levien came up as the number one pick in my mind, and he's a Renaissance man. He is fantastic. He can talk about anything, and whatever he talks about, you'll find to be extremely interesting. I also work with a gentleman, and have for the past 11 years, whose name is Chocko Valliappa. And Chocko is the CEO of a company called the Chocko Valliappa Group of Higher Education Institutions in India. And he also is the CEO and founder of Vee Technologies, which is a company that started, I imagine, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when he and I first found each other, he had an idea of coming into the United States with programs that were designed to help the hospitals and help the physicians provide their services at a more economically advantaged platform. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? And what happened was that it turned out over the last 10 years that particular opportunity presented itself because Chocko and his family own a number of universities and technical colleges in India. And the interesting thing is that about 30% of the students are on scholarship. And they are placed in majors that allow them to do extremely vital work in healthcare, medical billing, coding, and other areas. And they do it at near Six Sigma level. So when they graduate, they are running basically at 95 or 97% first pass accuracy. And they were brought into the university system because they were given a scholarship by Chocko and his family. I admire them greatly.
That's fantastic. I hear that we also have an esteemed guest from Harvard coming.
Oh, yes. John Quackenbush is someone who I have had great admiration for. He's a full professor at the Harvard School of Public Health in areas that are deeper than I ever thought that I would be getting about. But he doesn't laugh at me when we talk to each other. So I like him for that. And he is probably one of the top 2 or 3 experts in genomics and in healthcare analytics. And he's also a professor or faculty member at several of the cancer centers and at Harvard Medical School. So you'll get a kick out of him, because when I first saw him and met him, I thought, how did this guy accomplish this? He looks like he's 19 years old. So you'll draw your own conclusions, but he's very vital, very, very top of the game, and is I think one of the people who the audience would find to be fascinating.
You know, I mean, the whole purpose of Leaders in Action Looking Ahead, as we have discussed, David, you know, is to bring, I suppose you would call them complex subjects, complex topics, down to the level of people like me, who could then understand it in what we call common man speak. I think that's very, very important, because the other categories, which would be financial services, insurance, and life transitions, within those categories, the whole idea is to provide quality information, but to make it understandable to everyone. Across all of our networks, our demographics, you know, range from age 25, 30 upwards, all the way up into the retirement areas. We are enormous in North America, India, interestingly enough, and the Far East, principally the Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore. And I think the style that we have, which you're now very familiar with, David, you know, is to help the person explain it in that simple language. And I hesitate to use the word simple, but I do think it's appropriate, because I think the public wants to know about things like medical technology. Where are we going? Where are we heading? What are things like clinical trials? How is that being done? Telemedicine. I think some of those points are some of the things that you will be able to accomplish within the guest list that you're working with, David.
I certainly hope so. This is my 45th year. I started in 1974 with the HMO Act of 74. And I was fortunate enough to be taken under the wing of a gentleman who was coming to the University of Pennsylvania. And he was retiring as the senior executive vice president of Kaiser and becoming a chaired professor at Wharton School. And when I met him, I was president of one of the local chapters of the American Diabetes Association, an unpaid position, but volunteer position. And I had to run a meeting one night to determine which hospital within a 4-mile area was going to wind up getting an MRI or a CAT scan. And these are tens of millions of dollars. And you didn't really need to have 2 of them. 4 miles apart. So when I finished my hosting of the meeting, I was invited by this gentleman to sit down and asked if I wanted to have a cup of coffee and to consider joining his consulting company. And that was in itself a very flattering thing. But what I didn't realize was that along with that, I became president of the division of the consulting company. It was called the Corporate Health Division, where my clients were major Fortune 100 companies. And what had happened was that he was going to be coming to the University of Pennsylvania to chair the health economics department, but he wanted to continue having his consulting practice. And he said, "How'd you like to be involved in that?" And I said, "Yes." One of the best responses I've ever had, that I've ever made. Yes. And I said, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, we're going to be the national experts on HMOs." And I said, "Boy, that's great. What's an HMO?" But the best part is I started with that very low level of knowledge, but I had the entire senior faculty of Wharton to be able to draw upon. So if I needed someone who was the chairman of insurance and risk, or the chairman of medicine, or the chairman of healthcare law, I was able to tap them and bring them in and make them part of the project, because the University of Pennsylvania had a internal policy that encouraged their full professors to do outside consulting.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled that someone of your caliber and expertise has agreed to partner with us to help bring these and looking ahead videos to everybody. If you're watching this and you have a comment or a question about the upcoming series, you can reach out to us at Bill, that's BILL @olderhood.com. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care, everyone.